The red sun of Kepler 442c cast long shadows across the dusty settlement of New Beijing. Marcus Chen sat on the rusty fence post, swinging his legs and watching the alien ships land in the distance. At 12 years old, he had already learned to hate the sound they made, a low humming that meant bad news was coming. "Marcus." Zara al-Rashid called out as she ran toward him, her dark hair flying behind her. Even at 11, she moved with a grace that made the other children stop and stare. Marcus felt his cheeks grow warm as she climbed up beside him on the fence. "Did you hear?" she asked, her brown eyes wide with worry. "The aliens are here again," Marcus nodded. He had heard the whispers from the adults. The hegemony ships only came when someone was in trouble. The hegemony ruled over dozens of worlds, including Earth and all the human colonies. They were tall, powerful beings from different alien races who saw humans as nothing more than useful pets. "My father thinks they're coming for us," Zara said quietly. Marcus felt something cold settle in his stomach. Dr. al-Rashid was one of the smartest people in the colony. He studied old human history and sometimes asked questions that made the alien overseers angry. Questions about why humans lived on only a few poor worlds while other species had rich planets. Questions about what humans were like before the hegemony took control. "They can't take you away," Marcus said firmly. "I won't let them," Zara smiled sadly. "You're just a kid, Marcus. We both are. What can we do against them?" Before Marcus could answer, the ground shook. A massive ship, black as space and twice the size of their school, settled down in the colony's center. People came out of their homes, fear written on their faces. Marcus grabbed Zara's hand as they climbed down from the fence. The ship's door opened with a hiss. Out stepped the Kex, the Valian overseer who ruled their sector. He was 8 feet tall with blue-gray skin and forearms. His yellow eyes never showed any warmth when he looked at humans. Behind him came 2 other aliens, a floating creature with tentacles and something that looked like a walking tree. They all carried devices that could stun or kill with a single touch. "Bring me Dr. Hassan al-Rashid," the Kex announced, his voice carrying across the settlement like thunder. Marcus felt Zara's hand tighten in his. Her father stepped forward from the crowd, his head held high despite the fear Marcus could see in his eyes. "I am Hassan al-Rashid," he said. The Kex looked down at him like he was looking at an insect. "You have been found guilty of spreading forbidden knowledge. Your research into pre-hegemony human civilization violates the Education Control Acts." "I only studied history," Dr. al-Rashid said calmly. "Knowledge should be free." "Knowledge is dangerous in the wrong hands," the Kex replied. "Primitive species like yours cannot handle certain truths. You and your family will be relocated to Mining Station Gamma 7 immediately." The crowd gasped. Everyone knew about Gamma 7. It was a death sentence disguised as a work assignment. The mining stations were on worlds with poisonous air and crushing gravity. Few humans lasted more than a year there. "Please," Mrs. al-Rashid stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "Our daughter is just a child. Send us, but let her stay with another family." "The child goes too," the Kex said without emotion. "Sedition often runs in families." "No," Marcus shouted, pulling away from Zara and running toward the aliens. "You can't take her." The Kex looked down at the boy with amusement. "And what will you do to stop us, little human?" Marcus's mind raced. He thought about all the stories his grandmother had told him about the old days, when humans traveled between stars and built great cities. Stories the aliens said were lies, but which his grandmother swore were true. "I'll become worthy of her," Marcus said, his voice carrying clearly across the silent settlement. "I'll get the worthiness certification and marry her properly no matter what it takes." The silence that followed was complete. Even the wind seemed to stop blowing. Then the Kex began to laugh. It was a horrible sound like metal scraping against stone. "The worthiness certification?" he wheezed between laughs. "Child, do you even know what that is?" Marcus's face burned with shame, but he stood his ground. "I'll find out. It is a series of trials designed for the greatest minds and strongest beings in the galaxy," the Kex explained, clearly enjoying himself. "The trials test intellect beyond your comprehension, strength that could crush mountains and willpower that could resist the call of black holes. Your species lives barely a century. The certification trials take longer than your entire lifespan." "I don't care," Marcus said. "I promised." "Even if you somehow survived," the Kex continued, "which is impossible, you would return to find only her grave. Humans age and die like insects." The overseer's companions joined in his laughter. The floating creature's tentacles writhed with amusement, while the tree-like being's leaves rustled in what might have been mirth. "Take them," the Kex ordered his guards. As the aliens moved forward, Marcus ran to Zara. Her parents were already being forced toward the ship, but she had broken free and was running to him. "I meant it," he said, grabbing her hands. "I'll find a way." "Marcus," she started to say. "I promise you, Zara. I'll become strong enough and smart enough to pass their stupid tests. I'll prove that humans are worth something." Tears ran down her face. "It's impossible." "Maybe for other people," Marcus said, "but not for me. Not when it's about you." The guards reached them. One of them, a creature with too many legs, grabbed Zara gently but firmly. "Time to go." "Little human," it said in a voice like grinding rocks. As they pulled her away, Marcus shouted after her, "I'll come for you. I'll get that certification and marry you properly." Zara was loaded onto the ship with her parents. The door began to close, but Marcus could see her face in the opening, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I'll wait for you," she called out. "No matter how long it takes." The ship sealed shut and lifted off, its engines drowning out any other sound. Marcus watched until it disappeared among the stars, his hands clenched into fists. The Kex approached him, still chuckling. "Foolish child. In 10 years you will forget this girl. In 20, you will be dead from some human disease or accident. Your species is weak." Marcus looked up at the towering alien, no longer afraid. "You're wrong about us, am I?" The Kex leaned down, bringing his yellow eyes level with Marcus's brown ones. "Prove it." The overseer straightened and walked back to his ship with his companions. As it lifted off, Marcus stood alone in the settlement square, looking up at the stars where Zara had disappeared. His grandmother approached and put a weathered hand on his shoulder. "That was a brave thing you did, boy." "It was a stupid thing," his mother said, hurrying over. "Marcus, you can't just make promises like that. The certification is impossible." "Maybe," Marcus said quietly, "but I'm going to try anyway." His grandmother squeezed his shoulder. "Your grandfather would be proud. He always said humans were meant for greater things than this." Marcus looked up at her. "Tell me those stories again, Grandma." "All of them. About the old days and the ships and the cities among the stars." "Why?" "Because I'm going to need to remember what we used to be," Marcus said, his eyes fixed on the distant stars. "Before I can become what we're supposed to be." That night, as the red sun set and the alien ships disappeared, Marcus Chen began planning the impossible. He was just a 12-year-old boy from a forgotten colony world, but he had made a promise to the girl he loved, and that promise would change everything. 25 years had passed since that terrible day in New Beijing. Marcus Chen was no longer the boy who had made an impossible promise. At 37, he had become something the aliens never expected: dangerous. He stood in the hidden basement beneath his grandmother's old house, staring at walls covered with star charts, technical diagrams, and fragments of forbidden knowledge. His grandmother had died 10 years ago, but not before teaching him everything she knew about humanity's true history. His father had left him more secrets when he passed, hidden research that could get Marcus killed if the hegemony ever found it. But the most important discovery had come from Dr. Al-Rashid himself. Before his family was taken away, Zara's father had hidden data crystals containing information about the old human empire. Information that the hegemony had tried very hard to erase. Marcus picked up one of the crystals, its surface glowing softly in the dim light. According to the data, humans had once been equals among the stars. They had built ships that could cross the galaxy in weeks, cities that floated in space, and weapons that could crack planets in half. They had fought wars with other species and won. Then something had happened. The records were unclear, but it seemed like humans had turned their terrible weapons on themselves. A civil war that nearly destroyed their entire civilization. In the aftermath, the survivors had chosen to limit their own technology, afraid of what they might do with it. That was when the hegemony had moved in. Not as conquerors, but as helpful neighbors offering to manage things while humanity recovered. 50 years had turned into 100, then 500, then 1,000. Now most humans believed they had always been the junior species in the galaxy, but Marcus knew better. And tonight he was going to do something about it. He had spent 15 years preparing for this moment, learning to pilot spacecraft by working maintenance on the colony's transport ships, studying alien technology by fixing their broken equipment, building contacts with smugglers and traders who asked no questions about what humans wanted to buy. Most importantly, he had traced the location of something the hegemony thought was destroyed, a human ship from the old empire, drifting in the void reaches where no one was supposed to go. Marcus sealed the data crystals in a protective case and attached it to his belt. He had already loaded his stolen maintenance shuttle with everything he would need for the journey: food, water, oxygen, and a small fusion reactor that should keep him alive long enough to reach his destination. The shuttle was hidden in a canyon 20 kilometers from the settlement. Marcus had been moving supplies there for months, a little at a time so no one would notice. Tonight, while the alien overseers slept, he would finally leave. The walk to the canyon took 3 hours. Marcus moved carefully, avoiding the sensors that the hegemony used to watch the human settlements. He had learned their patterns over the years, found the gaps in their surveillance. The shuttle sat where he had left it, covered with a camouflage tarp that made it look like just another rock formation. It was not much to look at, a boxy cargo hauler designed for short trips between planets. But Marcus had modified it extensively. Upgraded engines, better shields, and a navigation computer loaded with star charts that officially did not exist. As he removed the tarp, Marcus thought about Zara, 25 years with no word about her condition. Mining Station Gamma 7 was supposed to be a death sentence, but Marcus refused to believe she was gone. He had to believe she was still alive, still waiting for him to keep his promise. The shuttle's systems came online smoothly. Marcus had tested everything a dozen times, but his heart still pounded as he ran through the final checks. One mistake and he would die in the void between stars. But he had come too far to stop now. The engines fired and the shuttle lifted off silently, its sound dampeners hiding the noise from alien sensors. Marcus climbed quickly above the atmosphere, then engaged the faster-than-light drive. The stars stretched into lines of light as he jumped toward the void reaches. The journey took 8 days. 8 days alone with nothing but the hum of life support systems and the endless black of space. Marcus spent the time studying everything he knew about the ship he was looking for, the dreadnought Prometheus, one of the greatest vessels ever built by human hands. According to the records, Prometheus had been damaged in the final battle of the human civil war. Its crew had tried to escape to the edge of the galaxy, but the ship had been too badly hurt. It should have died out there in the dark, another piece of wreckage from a forgotten war. But the records also suggested that Prometheus had been equipped with experimental technology. Self-repair systems, advanced artificial intelligence, and something called enhancement protocols that no one quite understood. Marcus found it on the 7th day. A massive shape drifting in the void, dark and silent. The ship was even bigger than he had imagined, 5 kilometers long and built like a knife blade. Its hull was scarred by weapons fire and meteor impacts, but it was still in one piece. As his shuttle approached, lights suddenly blazed to life along the dreadnought's surface. Marcus nearly jumped out of his seat as a voice filled his cockpit. "Unknown vessel, identify yourself." The voice was human, but there was something strange about it, something mechanical. "This is Marcus Chen," he said carefully. "I'm looking for the ship Prometheus." "I am Prometheus," the voice replied. "Or rather, I am what remains of the ship's artificial intelligence. You are human." "Yes. It has been 1,043 years since I last spoke with a human." "How did you find me?" Marcus explained about the hidden records, about humanity's current situation under the hegemony, about his promise to Zara. As he talked, he felt the ship's sensors scanning his shuttle. "Interesting," Prometheus said when he finished. "The hegemony has done their work well. Most humans now believe they were always a subject species. But it's not true. No. Humans were once the most feared race in this galaxy. Your people built weapons that could destroy stars and ships that could travel to other galaxies. You were magnificent and terrible. What happened?" "You learned to fear yourselves," Prometheus said sadly. "The Civil War showed you what unlimited power could do. So you chose to limit that power, to live smaller lives in the hope of living safer ones." Marcus guided his shuttle into the dreadnought's landing bay. The massive doors opened smoothly, as if the ship had been waiting for him. Emergency lighting came on, showing a bay that could have held 100 shuttles like his. "Why are you telling me this?" Marcus asked as he climbed out of his ship. "Because you are here for the enhancement protocols," Prometheus replied. You want to become strong enough to pass the hegemony's trials. Marcus stopped walking. How did you know that? Because no human would come here for any other reason. The protocols are the only thing I have that could give you a chance. What exactly are the enhancement protocols? A way to remake a human being, Prometheus explained as Marcus walked through the ship's corridors. Emergency lighting followed him, keeping the path ahead bright while everything else remained in shadow. Enhanced strength, extended lifespan, improved mental capacity. The ability to survive in space and resist temperatures that would kill normal humans. What's the catch? The survival rate is less than 3%. Most subjects die in agony as their bodies reject the changes. Even success comes with a price. You will no longer be entirely human. Marcus reached the ship's bridge, a vast chamber filled with silent control stations. In the center sat a chair that looked more like a medical device than a command throne. Even if you survive, Prometheus continued, the process will take years. Time moves differently during enhancement, and when you emerge, you may find that the person you were is gone. Marcus looked at the chair, thinking about Zara somewhere in the darkness between stars. 25 years had already passed. How much longer could he make her wait? What are my chances of passing the hegemony trials without enhancement? He asked. 0. And with enhancement? Unknown. No enhanced human has ever attempted the trials. Marcus walked to the chair and placed his hand on its arm. The metal was cold under his palm. If I do this, will I still be me? That depends on who you choose to be, Prometheus said. The enhancement changes your body and mind, but it cannot change your heart. If you truly love this woman, that love will survive any transformation. Marcus thought about Zara's face as the alien ship carried her away. Her tears, her promise to wait for him. 25 years of silence, but he still believed she was alive. I made a promise, he said quietly. Then sit down, Prometheus replied, and let us see if humans are still capable of keeping their word. Marcus settled into the chair. Restraints emerged from the arms and legs, holding him gently but firmly in place. Above him, a complex array of medical devices descended from the ceiling. Last chance to change your mind, Prometheus warned. I won't change my mind. Then let us begin. The pain started immediately, like fire in his veins. Marcus screamed as his body began to change, but even through the agony he held onto one thought, Zara's face and the promise he had made under an alien sky. The transformation had begun. 15 years had passed in the real world, but Marcus had experienced only 3. Time moved strangely during the enhancement process, with months of healing compressed into days of consciousness. When he finally emerged from the medical chair aboard Prometheus, he was no longer the man who had entered it. He stood before a mirror in the ship's medical bay, studying his reflection. At first glance, he looked almost the same, still recognizably Marcus Chen, still human. But his eyes held a new sharpness, and when he moved, it was with a precision that felt mechanical. His skin had a faint metallic sheen, and when he concentrated, he could feel information flowing through his mind at impossible speeds. How do you feel? Prometheus asked. Different, Marcus replied. His voice sounded the same, but he could hear harmonics in it now, frequencies that normal human ears could not detect. How different am I? Your lifespan is now measured in millennia rather than decades. Your mind can process information 1,000 times faster than before. Your body can survive in vacuum, withstand temperatures from near absolute zero to the surface of a star, and heal from injuries that would kill any normal human. Marcus flexed his hands, watching tendons move under skin that looked human but felt stronger than steel. What's the price? You are no longer entirely human, Prometheus said simply. You are something new. Something that bridges the gap between biological and artificial intelligence. In time, you may find it difficult to relate to unenhanced humans. Will I still love her? Love appears to have survived the process intact. Perhaps stronger than before. Marcus nodded. He could feel his love for Zara like a constant warmth in his chest, unchanged by the transformation. If anything, his promise to her felt more important now, burned into his enhanced consciousness like a guiding star. I need to get to the hegemony capital, he said. The journey will take 2 years at maximum speed. I suggest you use that time to prepare for the trials. For the next 2 years, as Prometheus carried him across the galaxy, Marcus studied everything the ship's databanks contained about the worthiness certification. The trials had been created 1,000 years ago as a way for lesser species to prove themselves worthy of joining the hegemony as equals rather than subjects. In all that time, only 17 beings had ever passed all 5 trials, and all of them had been from already powerful species. No human had ever even attempted the trials. The first trial was the trial of intellect. Candidates had to solve a quantum mathematics problem that typically took hegemony scholars decades to complete. The enhanced processing power of Marcus's mind would help, but the problem was designed to be almost impossible even for artificial intelligences. The second trial was the trial of strength. Candidates had to survive in the gravity well of a neutron star for 1 full day. The gravitational forces would crush any normal being into subatomic particles. Marcus's enhanced body might survive, but it would be agony beyond description. The third trial was the trial of will. Candidates faced a telepathic overmind that would try to break their consciousness and bend them to its will. Mental defenses were useless against a being that had lived for millions of years and dominated countless other minds. The fourth trial was the trial of sacrifice. Candidates had to give up what they valued most. Marcus did not know what the trial would ask him to sacrifice, but he feared it might be his memories of Zara. The fifth and final trial was the trial of worth. If a candidate survived the first 4 trials, they faced judgment by the hegemony's collective consciousness, a merging of the greatest minds from dozens of species. They would examine every aspect of the candidate's life and determine if they were truly worthy of equality. The trials are designed to be impossible, Prometheus explained as they approached the hegemony capital. They are meant to demonstrate that only the greatest beings in the galaxy deserve to stand as equals among the ruling species. But someone must have thought they could be passed, or why create them? They were created as a gesture, a way for the hegemony to appear fair while ensuring that no lesser species could ever challenge their authority. Marcus stared out at the approaching capital world. It was a massive city planet, its surface covered with gleaming towers that reached into space. Ships from 100 different species filled the orbital lanes, conducting the business of an empire that spanned half the galaxy. "I'm going to change that," Marcus said. Prometheus brought them to the world's diplomatic sector, where representatives from member species came to petition the Hegemony Council. As Marcus walked down the ship's ramp, he felt the stares of dozens of different aliens. Some looked curious, others dismissive. None of them had ever seen a human in this place before. The Hegemony building towered above everything else on the planet, a crystal spire that pierced the clouds and continued into orbit. Marcus walked through its main entrance, his enhanced senses taking in every detail. Security systems scanned him, weapons tracked his movement, and artificial intelligences analyzed his every step. At the reception desk, a being that looked like a cross between a spider and a flower looked up at him with compound eyes. "Purpose of visit?" it asked in the standard galactic language. "I wish to attempt the worthiness certification trials," Marcus said. The being's eyes widened. "Species?" "Human. Impossible. Humans are a subject species. Subject species cannot attempt the trials." "Check your regulations," Marcus said calmly. "Any sentient being may attempt the trials regardless of their species' current status." The being's leaves rustled nervously as it consulted its computer. After several minutes, it looked up again. "The regulation exists, but it has never been invoked by a human. I'm invoking it now." 20 minutes later, Marcus stood in a vast chamber before the Hegemony Council. Representatives from dozens of species sat in tiered galleries, their alien faces showing everything from amusement to outrage. In the center of the chamber sat the 5 high counselors, the most powerful beings in the known galaxy. "You are Marcus Chen of the human species," said the lead counselor. "A being of pure energy contained within a crystalline shell. You claim the right to attempt the worthiness certification." "I do." "Do you understand that failure means death?" "I do." "Do you understand that even success will change you forever?" "I have already been changed," Marcus replied. "I stand before you not as the human I was, but as what humans can become." Murmurs rippled through the galleries. The counselors conferred among themselves in languages that hurt to hear. "Very well," the lead counselor said finally. "You will be given 1 day to prepare. Tomorrow the trials begin." That night, alone in a guest chamber high in the crystal spire, Marcus looked out at the galaxy spread below him. Somewhere out there, Zara was waiting. 40 years had passed since he had last seen her. If she was still alive, she would be 51 years old now. Still beautiful in his memory, but aged by hardship and time. "I'm coming," he whispered to the stars. "I promised I would come." The trials began at dawn. Marcus stood in a chamber surrounded by the greatest minds in the galaxy, as they presented him with the mathematical problem that had stumped hegemony scholars for centuries. The equations filled the air around him, complex formulas that described the behavior of matter and energy at the smallest possible scales. Marcus closed his eyes and let his enhanced mind work. Prometheus had taught him to think not just faster but differently, to see patterns that biological minds could miss, to make connections across vast logical gaps. The answer came to him not as a solution, but as a song, a mathematical harmony that described the universe's deepest secrets. When he opened his eyes and spoke the solution, the chamber fell silent. In 12 hours he had solved what should have taken decades. The trial of strength nearly killed him. Even his enhanced body was pushed to its limits by the crushing gravity of the neutron star. His bones cracked, his organs compressed, and his enhanced healing abilities worked overtime to keep him alive. But he endured, counting every second until the day was complete. The trial of will was different. When the overmind touched his consciousness, Marcus did not try to resist. Instead, he opened his mind and showed the ancient being his memories. His love for Zara, his determination to keep his promise, his willingness to sacrifice everything for someone else's happiness. The overmind, ancient and cold, was moved to something like tears by the depth of human emotion it found there. The trial of sacrifice demanded that he give up his enhanced abilities, to return to being merely human. Marcus agreed without hesitation. His love for Zara was more important than any power. But when he tried to reverse the enhancement process, he found that it was impossible. The changes were too deep, too fundamental. He had become something new, and there was no going back. "Then I sacrifice my humanity itself," he said. "I give up being what I was to become what she needs me to be." The final trial brought him before the collective consciousness of the hegemony. Thousands of minds touched his, examining every thought, every memory, every motivation. They saw his love for Zara, his determination to improve humanity's place in the galaxy, and his willingness to sacrifice everything for others. When they withdrew, the lead counselor spoke with a voice that carried the weight of the entire hegemony. "Marcus Chen of humanity," it said, "you have passed the trials. You are worthy." The chamber erupted in chaos. In 1,000 years, no Mem Marcus stood on the observation deck of Prometheus, watching Kepler 442c grow larger in the view screen. After all these years, he was finally coming home. In his hands, he held two things that should not exist: a hegemony worthiness certification and an engagement ring forged from the core material of a dying star. The ring had taken him 3 years to make. He had traveled to the edge of a collapsing solar system and used technology that the hegemony believed was myth to extract matter from the star's heart. The result was a band of crystallized starfire that glowed with its own inner light, surrounded by a stone that held the compressed essence of a newborn galaxy. It was beautiful beyond description, and worth more than entire solar systems. But more importantly, it was impossible, just like his promise had been impossible. "Nervous?" Prometheus asked. "Terrified," Marcus admitted. 55 years have passed since I left. She could be dead. She could have forgotten me. She could have married someone else. Do you regret trying?" Marcus looked at the ring again. Light danced in its depths like trapped lightning. "No, even if she's gone, I kept my word." "That matters. Indeed, few beings in the galaxy can say the same." As Prometheus entered the planet's atmosphere, Marcus felt his heart beating faster. His enhanced senses could detect the settlement of New Beijing from orbit, still there, but much larger than when he had left. The population had grown from a few thousand to nearly 100,000 people. The ship landed in the same canyon where Marcus had hidden his stolen shuttle so many years ago. Word of their arrival spread quickly. By the time Marcus walked out of the ship, a crowd had gathered to see him. He recognized almost no one. The children he had known were now middle-aged adults. The adults were elderly or dead. But then he saw a familiar face in the crowd, Thekex, the Valian overseer. The alien looked exactly the same as he had 55 years ago, his blue-gray skin unmarked by time. Well, well, Tikek said, pushing through the crowd. Little Marcus Chen returns. I told you that you would die attempting the impossible. I'm not dead, Marcus said simply. No, but you are changed. Tikek's yellow eyes studied Marcus carefully. You are no longer human. I'm human enough. Are you? Then where is your proof of worthiness? Where is this certification you claimed you would earn? Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out a crystal tablet. The hegemony's official seal glowed on its surface, along with text in a dozen alien languages. He handed it to Tikek. The overseer's eyes widened as he read. His forehands began to shake. This is impossible. Let me see that, said another voice from the crowd. An elderly human woman pushed forward, her gray hair pulled back in a practical bun. Marcus did not recognize her at first, but something about her eyes seemed familiar. Then he realized who she was. Dr. Sarah Kim, who had been a young teacher when he left. Now she was clearly the settlement's leader, respected enough that even Tikek stepped aside for her. She took the tablet and studied it carefully. By the stars, she whispered. You actually did it. You passed the worthiness certification. Where is Zara? Marcus asked. Dr. Kim looked up at him with sad eyes. Marcus. She never came back from Gamma 7. Her family was sent there 40 years ago. We assumed they were all dead. Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest. All of them? We never heard anything. Mining station Gamma 7 was shut down 15 years ago. The official record said there were no survivors. Official records can be wrong, Marcus said firmly. I need to know for certain. Even if she survived, Dr. Kim said gently, she would be 66 years old now. An old woman. I don't care how old she is, Marcus replied. I made her a promise. Tikek was still staring at the certification tablet. How? He demanded. How did a primitive human pass trials that defeat the greatest minds in the galaxy? By being human, Marcus said. You aliens think that makes us weak. You're wrong. The trials are designed to be impossible. Maybe for you. Marcus took the tablet back and tucked it away. I need transportation to the Gamma sector. The mining stations are all shut down, Dr. Kim said. There's nothing there but empty worlds. Then that's where I'll look. Marcus turned to go back to his ship, but the crowd was growing larger. Word was spreading through the settlement and beyond. Humans were coming from everywhere to see the impossible. One of their own who had proven himself worthy in the eyes of the galaxy. Wait, Dr. Kim called after him. If you really pass the trials, what does that mean for the rest of us? Marcus stopped. He had been thinking about this question for years, preparing for this moment. It means everything has changed. I'm not just Marcus Chen anymore. I'm proof that humans deserve better than what the hegemony has given us. You speak of changing the order of the galaxy, Tikek said nervously. That is sedition. No, Marcus replied. That's evolution. He walked back to Prometheus, but before he could board, another voice called his name. This one was weak and shaky, the voice of a very old woman. Marcus? Marcus Chen? He turned and saw her. Ancient, bent with age, but unmistakably his grandmother's sister. Great Aunt Helen, who must be nearly 90 years old now. Aunt Helen? She shuffled toward him with the help of a walking stick. I thought you were dead, boy. I'm sorry I was gone so long. Your grandmother always said you'd come back. She died believing in you. Helen reached into her coat and pulled out something wrapped in old cloth. She made me promise to give you this if you ever returned. Marcus unwrapped the cloth carefully. Inside was a data crystal, much like the ones his father had hidden. But this one was different, older and marked with symbols he did not recognize. What is it? Your grandmother's final gift, Helen said. She spent her last years researching, trying to find any trace of what happened to the Al-Rashid family. That crystal contains everything she learned. Marcus felt his hands shake as he held the crystal. After all these years, hope and fear warred in his chest. Did she find them? Helen smiled, her ancient face lighting up. Why don't you find out for yourself? Marcus ran back to Prometheus, his enhanced speed carrying him across the canyon in seconds. He plugged the crystal into the ship's computers and waited as the data loaded. What he found made him sink to his knees in relief. Zara was alive. According to his grandmother's research, the Al-Rashid family had indeed been sent to mining station Gamma 7. But Dr. Al-Rashid's knowledge of old human technology had saved them. He had found ways to make the poisonous world more livable, had organized the other prisoners, had turned a death sentence into a colony. When the hegemony shut down the station, they had simply abandoned it. The human prisoners, now numbering in the thousands, had been left to fend for themselves. Most aliens assumed they would die quickly without support. Instead, they had built something new, a hidden settlement on a forgotten world, free from alien oversight. They called it Haven, and according to the records, Dr. Hassan al-Rashid was its first elected leader. His daughter Zara had become a teacher, then an engineer, then a leader in her own right. The last entry in the crystal was dated just 3 years ago. Zara al-Rashid, age 63, was still alive and serving as Haven's chief administrator. Marcus felt tears running down his face, the first tears he had shed since his enhancement. Even his transformed body could not suppress the joy and relief flooding through him. "Prometheus," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Set course for the Gamma sector. I have a promise to keep. What about your people here?" the ship's AI asked. "They need you to help them understand what your success means for humanity." Marcus looked out at the crowd still gathered around the ship. They were looking at him with hope, fear, and wonder. Some saw him as a hero who could free them from alien rule. Others saw him as a dangerous rebel who might bring the hegemony's wrath down on all humans. "They'll have to wait," Marcus said. "I've spent 40 years becoming worthy of the woman I love. Now I need to find out if she still wants me. And if she doesn't," Marcus looked at the ring in his hand, its starfire glow reflecting his transformed features, "then I'll have kept my word anyway. But I don't think she'll reject me. She promised to wait, just like I promised to come back." "Humans and their promises," Prometheus said with something like amusement. "The galaxy would be a very different place if more species honored their word the way you do." "Maybe it will be," Marcus said. "Maybe that's what needs to change." As Prometheus lifted off toward the stars, Marcus held the ring up to the light and thought about the girl who had cried as alien ships carried her away. Soon he would see if that girl had grown into a woman who could still love a man who was no longer entirely human. Soon, he would discover if some promises were strong enough to survive anything the galaxy could throw at them. Urav. The world that had once been Mining Station Gamma 7 was supposed to be dead. According to hegemony records, it was a poisonous ball of rock where the air burned lungs and the water dissolved bones. But as Prometheus approached the planet, Marcus saw lights on the dark side, organized patterns that could only mean civilization. "Impressive," Prometheus said as they entered orbit. 15,000 human life signs. They have built cities where the hegemony said nothing could survive. Marcus studied the surface scans. What he saw amazed him. The humans had not just survived on this hostile world, they had transformed it. Vast atmospheric processors cleared the poisonous air. Hydroponic farms fed thousands. And in the center of the largest settlement, a communications tower reached toward the stars. "They're trying to contact the outside galaxy," Marcus realized. "They want people to know they're still alive." "The hegemony has been blocking their signals," Prometheus reported. "As far as the rest of the galaxy knows, this world is empty." Not for much longer. Marcus piloted a shuttle down to the planet's surface, his heart racing faster with each kilometer. After 45 years, he was finally going to see Zara again. Would she recognize him? Would she still care about the boy who had made her an impossible promise? The shuttle landed in a plaza surrounded by buildings made from local stone. People came running from all directions. Humans who had been forgotten by the galaxy, who had built new lives from nothing. As Marcus stepped out of the shuttle, he heard gasps of amazement. "It's a ship from the outside," someone whispered. "Are they here to rescue us? Who could afford a ship like that?" Then Marcus saw her. Zara al-Rashid walked through the crowd, her silver hair catching the light of the alien sun. She was 66 years old now, her face lined with age and responsibility, but her brown eyes were the same ones that had looked at him with trust and love so many years ago. She stopped when she saw him, her hand rising to cover her mouth in shock. "Marcus?" she whispered. "Hello, Zara," he said, his voice barely steady. "I'm sorry I'm late." The crowd fell silent. Marcus could see confusion on their faces as they looked between him and their elderly leader. He looked like a man in his 40s, while she was clearly an old woman. "You came back," Zara said, tears streaming down her face. "You actually came back, I promised," Marcus replied simply. "But how? You look exactly the same. You should be as old as I am." Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out the worthiness certification. It's a long story, but I kept my word. I became worthy of you. Zara took the crystal tablet with shaking hands. As she read it, her eyes widened. Around them, people whispered as they realized what they were seeing. The worthiness certification, breathed an elderly man that Marcus recognized as Dr. Al-Rashid. Zara's father looked ancient now, bent with age but still sharp-eyed. No human has ever achieved this. This one has, said a new voice. Marcus turned to see Thekex emerging from another shuttle that had just landed. The Valiant overseer looked furious and frightened. Marcus Chen has passed the trials, and now he threatens the order of the galaxy. I'm not threatening anything, Marcus said calmly. I'm keeping a promise I made to the woman I love. You are inciting rebellion. This hidden colony, these people living without hegemony oversight, it is all illegal. Actually, Marcus said, pulling out another document. It's not. The crowd pressed closer as he displayed a legal charter bearing the seals of a dozen hegemony worlds. As a holder of the worthiness certification, I have the right to establish autonomous territories within unclaimed space. This world was officially abandoned by the hegemony 15 years ago, which makes it unclaimed. Thekex's yellow eyes bulged. Impossible. Where did you get this charter? I filed the paperwork 3 days ago. It's amazing how helpful hegemony bureaucrats become when you show them a worthiness certification. Dr. Al-Rashid stepped forward, his old face bright with hope. Does this mean we're free? It means you're protected, Marcus replied. And it means this world is now officially recognized as an independent human colony. The crowd erupted in cheers. People hugged each other, cried, and shouted their joy to the alien sky. For 40 years, they had lived in fear that the hegemony would return to finish what they had started. Now they were finally safe. But Marcus only had eyes for Zara. She was still staring at the certification, tears running down her weathered cheeks. I waited, she said quietly. Everyone told me you were dead, but I waited anyway. I know, Marcus said, stepping closer. I'm sorry it took so long. 45 years, Marcus. I'm an old woman now. You're beautiful, he said, and meant it. Age had not diminished her in his eyes. If anything, the lines on her face told the story of a life lived with courage and compassion. She had helped build a civilization from nothing, had kept hope alive in the darkest places. But you haven't aged at all. How is that possible? Marcus explained about the enhancement process, about what he had become. As he talked, he saw fear creep into her eyes. So you're not human anymore? I'm still me, Marcus said desperately. Changed, but still the boy who promised to marry you. Are you? Zara asked sadly. That boy was 12 years old. You've lived for decades among aliens. Become something they created. How do I know you're still the Marcus I knew? Before Marcus could answer, another voice cut through the crowd. Because he came back for you. Everyone turned to see an ancient woman being helped forward by 2 younger people. Marcus recognized her immediately, even though she was now nearly 90 years old. Mrs. Chen, his own mother. Marcus, she called out, her voice weak but filled with joy. My son? Marcus ran to her, falling to his knees beside her wheelchair. Mom, what are you doing here? I came here 30 years ago, she said, reaching up to touch his face with trembling fingers. After your grandmother died, I couldn't stay on Kepler. Too many memories. Dr. Al-Rashid let me join their colony. You've been here all this time, waiting for you to keep your promise, she said firmly. I knew you would come back. A mother knows these things, she turned to face Zara. This is my son. Changed, yes, but still the boy who loved you enough to challenge the galaxy itself. The boy who never forgot his promise. Zara looked back at Marcus, studying his face carefully. Show me, she said finally. Show you what? The ring. If you really came here to marry me, show me the ring. Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out the box containing the ring he had forged from Starfire. As he opened it, the crowd gasped. The ring blazed with its own inner light, beautiful beyond description. I made it from the heart of a dying star, Marcus said, kneeling before her. It will burn forever, just like my love for you. Zara stared at the ring, then at the man offering it to her. Around them, the crowd held its breath. Marcus Chen, she said finally, are you asking me to marry you? I'm asking you to let me keep the promise I made when we were children, Marcus replied. Zara al-Rashid, will you marry me? Yes, she whispered. Then louder so everyone could hear. Yes! The crowd exploded in celebration. People cheered, cried, and began planning the greatest wedding their world had ever seen. But Marcus barely heard them. He slipped the ring onto Zara's finger and watched her eyes fill with wonder as starfire danced around her hand. "It's beautiful," she breathed. "Not as beautiful as you." "Even though I'm old?" "Especially because you're old," Marcus said. "You've lived a full life, helped build this world, raised children, led your people. You've become everything I dreamed you could be. And you? What do you want now?" Marcus looked around at the colony, at the people celebrating their freedom. "I want to help you build something even greater. This world is just the beginning. There are other human worlds suffering under the hegemony. Other people who deserve to be free." "You want to start a revolution," Zara said, understanding in her eyes. "I want to finish what you and your father started," Marcus replied. "I want humans to take their rightful place among the stars." As if summoned by his words, the sky filled with ships. Dozens of them, from every major species in the hegemony. Marcus recognized warships, diplomatic vessels, and newscraft. Word of his achievement had spread across the galaxy. "It seems the galaxy has come to us," Zara observed. "Good," Marcus said, standing and helping her to her feet. "It's time they met the real humanity." The largest ship landed in the plaza, a massive diplomatic vessel bearing the seal of the Hegemony Council. Out stepped representatives from a dozen species, led by the same crystal being that had overseen Marcus's trials. "Marcus Chen," the lead counselor said, its voice carrying clearly across the plaza. "You have caused quite a disturbance in the galaxy." "I kept a promise," Marcus replied. "That shouldn't disturb anyone. Your actions call into question the status of all subject species. If humans can produce beings capable of passing the worthiness trials, then perhaps they deserve reconsideration. Perhaps they do." The counselor studied the crowd of humans, taking in their achievements, their defiance, their obvious love for their leaders. "The Hegemony Council has voted. Humanity will be granted provisional status as a recognized species. You will be allowed to govern your own worlds and participate in galactic politics." "What's the catch?" Zara asked, her political instincts sharp despite her joy. "The catch," the counselor replied, "is that humanity must prove itself worthy of this trust.